to log in and see it also, or no? You do want it? I mean, just to watch it while it's running? Log into it as it's basically a hangout. Doesn't matter. All right. I think last time there were problems, but I think that the problems were more because for whatever reason it wasn't screen sharing. Yeah. Well, it will be in the list. If you want it right now, I mean, I could put it in and copy it to an announcement or something. Do you guys want it? Either later. It's only if you want it, like you log out the screen over here, and I mean you could watch it while you're going. I guess I'll post it just in case you want to. Although then I have to log into Canvas.
That's okay.
Okay. All right, so it is broadcasting now. There wasn't much going on there. Let's bring back up the virtual, make it big, bring up this again. Okay, so the last couple of the first one, there were a few things. The searching for patterns, did you guys know how to use like? And searching for nulls, all that was okay? Right, so is null. The thing with a null is you can never use an equal or a greater than or less than with nulls because they don't have a value. A null is a non-value. So you have to use the word is or is not, all right, to find those. So the like, when you're looking for a pattern, I'll do a real quick. And then I'll do the execute. So I'm going to do select person last name from person where person last name like single quotes. What do we want to start with? D. I don't know if there's any D's, but let's try it. And this isn't case sensitive. Even in most environments, even the data is not case sensitive. This is true even on Linux systems, unless you set it to be so, right? So you can change the database so that the data itself is case sensitive, but it isn't by default. So there we have everybody that starts. The percent sign is a wildcard for any number of characters. If we wanted, say we only wanted one character here. I don't think, this wasn't part of the assignment. The for just one character. So let's say we did DE in and then a percent. Now that really isn't relevant in a way because we have only these as DE in. If we had a Danny in there, you know, then it would give us that too. But the underscore, and the percent sign means we want to see one that is just missing this one character, right? So the underscore is one character, the percent sign is any number of characters. This should still give us, this will give us the Danny, Denton, and Danielson. It does give us Dan.
So the underscore is any character?
The underscore is any one character as a wild card. I mean, it's any one character, and the percent sign is any number of characters. And when I did this in MySQL, it was the same. So how does it know what the underscore in these are? It's what's within the single quotes and in the like. It's context sensitive, so they're wild cards if they're following a like. Does that make sense? What were the last two was top?
Top 10 or top 10 wages?
What do we got in community assist? So we could probably do top 10 grant requests or something. The offset is the very last one, yeah. So I'll do the top 10 and then the offset. The offset is the weirdest one. The top 10 is actually pretty easy, and it doesn't have to be top 10. It can be top whatever. You just literally write whatever. Yeah.
Are you referring to the assignment one?
Yes. Select one. The assignment tables. This is selects. So this is assignment for select one. And then there's a select two, right? And I'm going to talk about it mostly. Because most of you are, even if you're not done with one, most of you started on one and you're pretty close. Let's do top 5. And then I can do, so let's do, what are the fields in grant request? Let's just do grant request date. I'm going to give it a grant type key. We'll do join so you can get the actual thing. And then I'm going to do the grant request amount. Okay, and then it's from grant request. And although I didn't say it, top 5 doesn't make much sense if you don't do an order by. Because I didn't say an order by, if you didn't order by, I won't take off. But it really doesn't make a lot of sense to do it if you're not sorting the table. So I'll do order by grant request amount. Okay, so when I run that, it gives me the top 5 being, and I didn't, let's order descending.
By default, is it ascending?
It's ascending by default, yes. So these are the 5 biggest requests. Now, these are different requests, and if you wanted to see them, well, they aren't distinct because the grant type is different and the date is, actually the date is the same. The reason why so many dates are the same is that I inserted them in a bulk statement. Yeah, so this is the date we ran our script, because part of the script is instead of saying giving it a date, we said get date. So because we ran this as a script, all the dates are the same, which is not necessarily good, but okay, so let's do the other one, basically the fetch and the offset. So I'm going to do the same. I'm going to get rid of the top 5, but I'm going to copy this. Get rid of the top 5. And I'm going to say, basically, I want to order. I'm still going to order by, so I should have copied that too. And in fact, this one won't run if you don't order by. Okay. So we want to offset, how many do we want? We want to offset, what, 10 rows, 5 rows? Let's do 5 again. Offset 5 rows, fetch next 10 rows only. And it doesn't have to be 10 rows either. So what does that mean? Anybody know? Did I spell offset? Should be.
First 5 rows will be shown.
Right. Basically, first, so what is number 6 through 16 or so? It'll skip these, right? So it's going to start below this. So if you wanted to see something, not the very top, but you wanted to see things just below a certain point in the top, let's run it and see if it works. All right, so we got 10 rows. Notice it starts at 675. So that's the one right below the other one. And if you wanted to see only, we could offset by 5, and we could also show, if we wanted, like show only 4 rows or something. So you basically, it allows you to, when you've ordered it, you can pick your places in your ordered list to return and how many of them you want to return. Does that make sense? That can be useful. I mean, that kind of information can be useful. Other questions on that first assignment? Anything? I mean, once you do it, if you haven't done it yet, when you're doing it, of course you can. And again, I don't put semicolons here, but if you want to, when you move into other environments.
Isn't the comma or the lack of a semicolon being deprecated?
What do you
Put
mean?
that in the book.
Oh, that the lack of a semicolon is being deprecated?
Yeah.
In future.
So in future versions, it's not going to work unless it's got a semicolon.
I didn't know. I didn't read that, but I believe you.
It was like a little added drawing.
Well, in a way, it would make sense because there are issues that arise from not having semicolons. That's one reason why Microsoft has the goes, because you have to do something to separate batches, whereas the semicolon would do that for you.
They had to do their own thing.
Yeah. And it, actually, I have noticed that the command line, you need the semicolon. Typically, but not so much in this environment. And I didn't notice it in the, I have the most recent SQL Server at home, and it still works without semicolons. So I'm not sure when they're deprecating it.
Future. It's a
Future. To be in compliant with the rest of the world. Okay, so are we ready to look at the next stuff? So the next one, it's a fairly big step up in difficulty because it includes all these built-in functions. And functions are a little bit different among the different database softwares. So one of the things, since we're on request date here, some of the functions I want to show you are just some simple date time functions. Date time functions are really useful for a lot of things. So say you wanted just the year out of that. So I could do select, I'm just going to do year, grant request date. And do we want, and when I say to alias it, I'm going to say as year, And then I'll just do grant type key and grant request amount. They're all going to be the same year. From request, grant request. All right, so grant request, the year, what do you think it does?
Displays over the year.
Yeah, it extracts the year. Okay. So that can be useful if you wanted to just look at the year, right? It extracts just the year. There is, and I'm just going to do these really quickly. So I'm just going to copy that. You can do the month. And I think a lot of these will have the same month because of the way that they were inserted. There are, oh, I didn't change this. Let's change it to year, from year to month. A couple of things about this. This is the alias. Somebody asked me about the aliasing you did. This, what I'm doing, notice it displays as year. So basically what I've done is I've renamed it. If I don't put that in there, let's take the month out for just a moment. It doesn't throw an error, but it gives you no column name. So the alias, you can alias any column. I'm going to paste that back in. I could do this as grant type. And then we could alias this as amount. Notice that I'm leaving out the as. You do not need the as. It's an optional keyword there. Oh, I missed. Cancel this. Kill that. Come back here. So let's make this so you can see month, grant type, and amount. The alias came across rather than the underline. So the as is always an optional keyword there. Although you might want it for clarity to let you know that you are aliasing it.
And the brackets as well.
The brackets are necessary only in certain circumstances. You can always use them if you want. Can you guess what the circumstances might be? Why would I put year in there?
If there's a function
Yeah, the year is the name of the function.
or calculated field.
Well, so it depends. It doesn't always have to be. The reason for the brackets are to say that I'm using a reserved word or I'm using illegal characters. So one of the things you can do if you use square brackets is you can put spaces in your names, right? Because spaces are not allowed. You could put in, there are lots of, like a percent sign if you wanted to say that percent signs are not allowed as a character in a field name. But you can, if you put them in square brackets, it'll treat them as a literal. Like basically what the square bracket says is treat this as a literal. Don't try to interpret any symbols or anything in there. Don't bulk it up. It's a string literal.
It's like the /.
Yeah, yeah. So that, basically, you don't ever have to do this except if you have a keyword or illegal characters, but you can always do it if you want. That makes sense?
Yeah.
Double quotes have the same effect, but I'd go with the square bracket. Okay, and then I'm going to do, so there's month and there's day. So I'll just do this as day. And I'll change this to day. And it'll have the, effect that you would expect. So you can extract the parts here. There's another way to do this, which actually works better with the time ones, which is select DatePart, and we'll do the grant request date. No, actually, I put in grant request date, but there's some other arguments that I need to give it. One is the DatePart. I'm trying to remember what minute is. I wonder if we just write minute. Let's just do from grant request. So this would actually extract the minute. And again, it's all at the same time because it was all timed with the same when we ran the script. I should have put something in there to scramble. But does that make part? You can do the minute. You can do the hour, I believe. Oh, yeah, I copied more than I wanted. There's the hour. And the and it's in a 24-hour thing there. And you could also do the second. And notice you can do the microsecond, millisecond, and nanosecond. So you can get down there.
You can use DatePart for month and year.
Yes, you can. So, I mean, DatePart works for all of them as well. But for time, the DatePart works better than these. If you do hour outside here and do it, it doesn't work. Okay, so that's a couple of date things. One other one I want to show you. Notice also, yeah.
Okay, it's fine.
Okay. One of the other things I wanted to show you that you've obviously seen is that in this environment, functions or whatever you call that color, fuchsia. So I'm going to do date diff. And so one of the things when you do a function, you can see this IntelliSense here. And if you don't have that, you may have to go Google it and figure out what comes first. First is the interval. So we have to figure out what we want to check. So I am going to do, I think you can do day or you can do DD. And then it wants the starting date. Let's just do today. Here's another date function. Anybody guess what get date does? It gives you the current date and time. Yeah, according to your computer. So if your computer's wrong, you're wrong. But and then we need the end date. So what's the last day of the quarter?
23.
So is it 3/23, 2017? Now, if I have this backwards, what it's going to do is give us a negative number. But theoretically, it doesn't know how many days are left in the quarter. Yeah, 70 days left. And then there's no column name, so we could say, so let's do a notice that there's no from here because I'm not getting data from anywhere and just putting it in there. You could use SQL as a simple calculator. I wouldn't advise it. It's really clumsy compared to other calculators, but it works. I mean, you can do any kind of math or something here. I don't know if I showed that. If you want to do math, you just do, the operators are the same as any other programming language. So the asterisk for multiplication, the slash for division. Let's take just to do some arbitrary math, let's do the select grant request amount. What do we want to do with it? Well, say we were going to take, that's how much should go to the grant. Let's do it from donation. Let's do a donation amount. I can do something that kind of makes sense there. And let's say that 10% goes to, so we'll do that as operations. And 10% would be really good. Times 90, and we'll say that goes to the charity from donation. So, and actually, so let's just do the donation amount too, so that we see the original donation amount. I'll break that. So that, if you were breaking it up, you could do some simple math like that to see. So you can do anything you want mathematically in these, right? You can do, and a lot of the math functions are there. So I'm not going to go into them all, but if you wanted to do absolute, or you wanted to square, there actually isn't is there a square root? I think there's a square root. There's a lot of trig functions, which are odd to me, but databases are often used for geolocation things, so the trig might make sense there. But does that make sense? You can do the math, right? Just do the date time. There's other date time. There's actually a lot of other ones, but I'm not going to go into them all. There's a date add, which is very similar to the date diff. This subtracts, the other one adds, right? Questions on those functions? I see confusion. Is it clear or is it confusing? And how do you know what functions there are? There's a couple of ways, actually. You can Google. But if we look at over here at the database, and if we go down to programmability, I don't know if you can see it, but it's over here, programmability. And if I click on that, it's called here, value functions, the scalar value functions, the aggregate functions, those are all empty, right? Because these are places to store functions you write, which we will do. But system functions, if you open that, database system functions, then you have all these categories. And if we look at like the date time functions, it lists, the current timestamp, date at, date diff, date name. Date name will actually convert your, we can play with that if we want, it will convert your numerical date into words. DatePart, day, get date, get UTC date, is date, check if it's a date, month, system date, time, system, etc. So these are the date and time functions. If you look at just the mathematical functions, it has all of those, and Basically, there's row set functions, metadata functions, text and image functions, string functions, aggregate functions, which we'll look at in a moment. You know, there's a lot of functions that are built in. You can see them all here. You still probably have to Google them to figure out what they do. There are, I would guess there's a few hundred pre-built functions. And if you do that, I mean, I did it in this database, but they're there in every database. They're part of the standard, you know, they're just available. You can, we're not going to, you can add functions to the system functions, but you have to write C#.
That's the only language it works in.
You know, it might work in C++ as well. But you can extend SQL. You can extend SQL Server. You can add functions. You can add data types. You can add things to SQL Server. That being said, that you have to do it in a programming, you know, in C++ or C#. All right, so let's do some other quickie functions. Are there any questions on those? So we did date. Sometimes you have to cast things. Let's see, where would I need to cast? I'll just show you the basic function. These are decimal already, so I don't really need to do any casting here. But if you did need to cast, you could just do cast donation amount. And I'm going to do as decimal. And when you do decimal, you have to give it a size. So that's just the syntax for casting things, because I think in some of the assignments you have to cast them to make them work. You have all the issues of integer division. Do you guys know what those issues are? What is about the result of an integer division?
Gets rounded.
Yeah, you lose all decimals, right? It doesn't even round it. It just gets rid of the decimals.
Truncate.
Yeah, it truncates it rather than rounds it. It doesn't actually round up or down. It just gets rid of it. There are rounding functions if you want those. So if you're doing a division between two integers, you'll need to cast at least half of it to decimal in order to have a decimal result. It always defaults to the higher precision. So if you cast one side to decimal, both sides will be treated as decimal. So I just wanted to show you the cast. It's not necessary.
In the parentheses, is that 10, 2 or 10.2?
It's 10, 2. And with the decimal data type, what you have to do is how many total digits are you going to use? 10 is an overkill there. And then how many of those 10 digits is going to be to the right of the decimal place? Right, so it's going to be 8. Your maximum number would be 8 9s, 9 9. Does that make sense? Decimal, you have to give it a precision. Thing is, it doesn't always throw an error if you don't, but what you get is nothing. It gives you 0 as a result. So looking at casting, we did the date. Let's do a simple format function. What if we wanted to turn the donation amounts into dollars? There's a couple of ways to do it. One is you can cast it all to character type and then add the $sign. But there's an easier way. So I'm going to do select format, and in the format I'm going to do donation amount. And then I'm going to do a comma, and then I actually have to give the format. So let's do $ space, comma, oops, not threes, 0.00 in quote. I guess that's good enough. From so that's okay. This does is the format will basically a lot of programming languages you can format the string. This says that there will be a comma, thousands. There will be a $. The zeros are required numbers. The pound signs are variable if they use them. Right? Be at least about 00. There will always be those three numbers anyway. So let's see what that looks like. So see, it gave the $, and then we've always got the 2 digits, even if it's 00. Doesn't align them, but it formats them so that it looks like what you want. The format here is really nice, but it only works on numbers. Right, so when I talked about the formatting like a phone to look like a phone number, it won't work on that because I always enter phone numbers as character types. Right, so I'll show you how to do something similar. I'll do. If I do the phone numbers, it'll be the same as your assignment.
Really? I guess there's no social security.
Yeah, I was thinking social security number. I don't think social security numbers in here, so let's just do it with a literal. Does that make sense? Because you can always substitute a field for literal. Let's do. Oh, how do I want to do that? Well, let's look at what we got for fields. Did I put any in the employee? I don't think I have a social security number, did I? And I didn't in Metro Alt didn't do a social security number either, I think. Did I have Metro Alt? Oh, there it is. Well, we could do it. Let's just do a social security number then. So I'm going to do this as a literal. Or actually, this will drive you crazy probably. Let's create a variable. So I'm going to declare at as how about in-car? How many characters are in the Social Security?
5 or 9.
9. Okay, so we've created a variable. I'm going to set this variable, set at Social Security equals, oh, I don't know. Is there a, and then 4 digits, 1, 2, 3, 4. Could be somebody's Social Security number, I suppose. We've never
10 characters there. You need to take out the one of the 5s.
You're not going to count the spaces.
Well, I'm not putting any spaces in this. We're going to format it so that it has dashes between them. So I'm going to do select, and so I'm going to do, let's see if I can remember, I believe it's a substring. I'm just trying to remember the name of the function. I have it here. Why don't I want to get I don't think it's substring. Maybe. There's a substring function. And I want the expression, which is the at social sec. Starting position is 0, right? Actually, it's 1. SQL doesn't use zero-based arrays. Why, I don't know. And then we want to go three characters, right? Now I'm going to run that just to see. Oh, must declare. That's because I have to run these together. So I got 9, right? This string. So then I'm going to just concatenate, and I'm going to do plus, and I'm going to do a literal dash, plus, and then we'll do substring. And we'll do the same at social thing. We'll start at character, I guess it would be 4. And we will go, what, 2 characters? Now, just to see if that works. And again, I have to run the variable with it. Okay. Plus the literal dash, plus, and then the whole thing again. But we start at 7? No. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And we go 4. So the second number is, this is the character you start at, and this is how many characters to take. Right? So we start at character 4, we take 2 characters. If we start at character 6, we take 4. And then I'll just say as SS number. All right, so let's see if that works. Again, I have to run this stupid variable. Okay. So the social security number, or the phone number, would be exactly that kind of pattern, but you'd also add parentheses as literals. You just do them as literals. Does that make sense? The reason we have to do this is that it is a number. Now, another thing you could do is you could cast this to be a numeric type. And then you could use the format string. As long as it works. So some social security numbers start with zeros. And if that's the case, it doesn't cast to a string properly.
So the third and fourth line there, so that's just for the display as the primary, or is that
Well, this is just for
setting the pattern for the variable itself?
what it says is this is just affecting the display. That's actually a good point about selects in general, is that they don't change the under data. You know, danger here of doing any damage to the database, and you're not changing anything in the database. You're just changing the display. And a lot of times when people are writing is to create reports on the data, and so how it looks matters a little bit. Does that make sense?
But could you, because you're creating a new function, right? The add social set.
I'm actually not creating a function. I'm just creating a variable.
Okay. So in creating a variable, can that be the format property of that variable?
I'm not sure you can add anything. It wouldn't survive. This variable only lasts for a second. It only lasts a minute I run it.
Okay, so it's not like retained and.
It's
like
not
a C#
retained.
program. Or
No. I mean, this is literally, this exists. Now, when we do stored procedures and stuff, put it in the body of something else, then the variable will be retained, at least for the duration of that stored procedure.
So this is like on the fly.
This is on the fly. It was just a way to get a social security number without having to type it over and over again.
Sort of similar, like what you might work with a shell, like
Yeah, it kind of interpretive. I mean, we'll talk later when we do updates about transactions. And this is a single transaction, and it lasts, literally as long as it takes to process. When we do it, actually, even within a stored procedure, it exists as long as it takes to process. But it's not like an object. It doesn't really have any. Now, in the database itself, you could have had the choice to have entered it this way from the beginning. There are sometimes you don't. Like with a phone number, it depends on, like if you're going to use a dialer, it depends on how your dialer wants it formatted. Sometimes it wants it with no dashes and no parentheses. Sometimes it wants those.
Maybe it's getting into things, but is there a way to alter the table so you can change the whole entire column to that format?
So you could, but it'd be complicated. So probably what you would want to do is to add a new field to the table that will allow this. And then you would want to write some code that takes all of the stuff in the old column and copy it to the new column as well. And then you would delete the old column.
Yeah. Maybe get it right the first time.
Yeah. One, as I said, in database development, and always easy to change it in the design phase. What I'm talking to wouldn't take long, but it involves. All right, so I did the substrings. Those make sense. I'm just trying to remember what else you need. Select two. Yeah. Other character format things, there's like a index of. So an index of is like if you wanted to return, let's do a real quick index of, and then I'll just do.
Quick question.
Yeah.
So I noticed variables, they're not case sensitive, right?
They are not. Actually, is it index of?
On row 31,
Yeah.
you took gas listed.
Yeah, it'd be fine. No difference. Except I have to run this stupid variable, right? It doesn't know the variable, right? Unless I run it in the same context, it doesn't know that variable. Index of, I think that's C#. Let me think about what the actual string function is. There is a function anyway that would return an integer based on the character that you're looking for, right? So if you're looking for a space or something, you could return the index number of that space string that you're looking at, and then you could apply a substring on that as a starting position, for instance, if you wanted to like the next word or something like that. I don't think any of my assignments asked for that, but let's move on to a bigger topic, and I think that's, so these are all, so far, I'm going to just do a quick comment. So start out here. These are all scalar functions. Does that word mean anything to anybody? Well, oh, they operate row by row. Right? They operate individual rows. So what we're going to look at now are some aggregate functions. So I'll just get rid of that select. So aggregate functions operate across rows. You know, they operate on groups of rows. And that group can be as big as the entire table. So for instance, if you wanted to know the total donation, so if we do that, that would give us the total donations. And again, there's no column name because I didn't alias it. So that operated over across the table. It had all the values, you know, of all the donations. And imagine what the other ones are, right? There are lots of them, but so we could do the average. So the mean average donation is 1,161. I think that's because I had Bill Gates donate. There was a big donation in there. And you could look at the, this might be relevant here, the max donation. Was 12,150, and the minimum donation, without the S, will be the smallest donation, so $25. So these are aggregate. Now they're all across the entire table.
And they work on Mac and then work on date as well.
I think they can. Some an average won't work on dates, but min and max will actually work on. I'm pretty sure they will work on
And on
dates.
strings, would it return like?
So actually, they might work on strings. It might return the highest ASCII value. Or they work if they error out.
So it's a requirement that be a integer or a float.
Well, so let's do like person last from person. I think it may fail. Yeah, well, it's not even an error at that point. And it did. It gave it the highest beginning ASCII, capital Z. So they do work on non-numeric, although typically not how you're going to use them. And I'm pretty sure they work on date too. So if you wanted to know the max date would be the most current date, right? And the min date would be the oldest date. And then partially on dates it works because they're just integers underneath. But so are codes. But when it comes to it, they're all numbers, yes. Let's other things. Let's wanted to know the average donation per donation grant. So let's like a select grant type. Yeah.
You actually explain the line.
So it's doing maximum of the person. The max. So you know that letters are just a table, right? And the tables, they all have numeric value. So capital E is the highest numeric value for that. I'm actually sure that would work. I'm going to do P, and I'm going to average grant request amount. Grant request. All right, so this one won't, and if I wanted to, just to show you, you could do this. I could do format. So let's just do the $sign. That's supposed to be the pound. 0.00, close quote, close parens. This will cause an error. Anybody know why? No, it's actually, that's okay. Part of the problem is that type is scalars row by row, right? And this is aggregate. It's operating on multiple rows. You can't have the two together. So the way that you deal with this is there's a clause that you can add to your query, which is group by. So I could by the grant type key, and the effect of that, it'll create groups in the average. Let's look at that. The average request for type 1, which is food, by the way. I'm avoiding inner joins because we'll do that next. The average one for, for grant type key 1 is 128. The average for grant type key 2 is 658. I think that's correct. The average for grant 3 is 200. It's been grouped. The totals have been grouped by the grant type. Right, so instead of doing the whole table, it does subgroups. This is really quite useful, right? Because you can start to get some really useful information out of here. And you could have more than one. So we did as average. Let's do as same kind of thing. I'm just going to copy all of that, I guess. And I'm going to find. I'm going to just total, and we'll just change the have a thing total. We have the total and we have the average together there. Does that make sense? It'll make even more sense when we do inner joins, because then we can have a word here instead of a number. But this is an absolute rule. You have to by everything isn't part of the function.
Like on line 42, we have pound, comma, pound.
Sure.
It's not all pounds.
You could. It says that you always are going to display at least one digit in two. The 0 means that it has to display them. The pound is optional. So if I had a 0 donation or a $1 donation, it would still do 1.00. Yeah. Even if somebody donated 99 cents, then it would be 0.99. Whereas these digits are optional, and they'll expand too. If $20,000, it'll go beyond the 4 digits here, but it'll put a comma after every 1,000. So if we do like the is there any of have looking to see if any of these have for the total? The grand total isn't in there, but the grand total would be. One of the things you really can't do very well in here is you can't really do a sum of these. You know, like if you wanted the total or box total. To do that, you're better off just shipping it to Excel. And in actuality, particularly in the newest versions of SQL Server, so it's a menu option. Push it
Isn't
to
there like a
Excel.
report writer or something?
There's actual, so that you can, there's a software edition that you can add to Visual Studio that will create reports from this. And you can do the summary, you know, the group summaries as well in that. The default report structure for this is ASP.NET pages that go to SharePoint.
Okay.
You don't have to send them to SharePoint, but that's sort of the default structure for the reporting. But it's not built into this Management Studio. You have to get a separate add-in to Visual Studio for that. I do that in summer. If you take the summer database classes, we build reports. And it's kind of fun. Okay, so does that make sense for average and group by? Group by how to get, and then I'm going to do one other thing. What if I wanted to see the ones that had an average greater than 400? Anybody know how you would set that up? Yes, that's correct. You could do a where clause here, but you could say, I'll just do it real quick, say where, although the where has to come before the group by. Where grant key type equals, I don't know, what number do you want? Let's just do 5. What does it not like about that? Oh, yeah, brain. I have a little dyslexia sometimes. See, that works just fine. I'm going to not do that for the next one, but I'm going to copy this and get rid of the where. And you can have the where and this other, but I'm going to do a having. And I'm going to, for the having, do average grant request amount greater than 400. Okay. Now the having, you have to use having instead of where if the criteria is an aggregate number. That makes sense? I think it's neat doing the processing. They have to be really clear about whether they're handling it row by row or handling it, you know, the distinction by groups of numbers. And this is essentially a group number. So you could do this basically, do this selection and show only the ones that are greater than 400 of the average. If I put, it will throw error. Average is an aggregate. Average operates with rows. we want it where clause just for, I don't know, just for whatever, where grant type key, and I'm going to say so we're going to exclude this for whatever reason. Rent is the highest, right? It's there. The where and the having work together just fine, right? They've excluded two. Couple of things though. The having is always after the group by, because it has done the grouping. The where is always before the group by, because it's operating row by row. So you can have both. Also, I'm not sure I showed you the operators for for not. I use the keyword not, which is actually the more standard ASCII. This actually does support, SQL Server supports not equal, and it also supports this. So you could not equal to with like the sharp version, and you can also do this. Both of those work, but this is the more standard SQL. Weirdly, does not equal here. It has to be not grant type equal. So that's quite a bit. I think that might be most of what we have, though, for the assignment. It's just the dates things and some calculations. And I have my libraries thing up here. Remember what else I covered? Oh, there's one other thing to show you. And then I can keep working. Questions on this so far? You guys have been pretty quiet. There's two other kinds of things that at the very end I did. I'm not sure why. I think because the book had them here. You can query the meta detail. So I'm going to just do select name. I'm just going to do name from sys.table. Now these sys queries are system queries, and basically notice what the name of all the tables of the in the database. It is context sensitive, so whatever database you're in, if you do that, it'll do, you know, sys tables. If I wanted to see all the columns in a particular table, so let's do select, and I'm only doing name. I'll show you what the, if I do an asterisk, but let's do from, actually, so it actually, I'm not sure. Let's do a star from sys tables first. So it gives you a lot of information, including a parent, you know, the name, the object ID, schema, parent object, create date, modify date, etc. A lot of this is empty. But, anyway, a ton of stuff, most of which I care about. Let's take a list for domain. And what I want to do is not entirely sure. Select name. Actually, first star from sys.columns. I think it is columns.
are the column name metadata?
Yes.
What is that?
Metadata data that describes data. So that's object 3. I'm going to say and I'm going to do, let's see if that gives me just the ones from, yeah, that gives me just the donation one. I got this from up there. Metadata is data that describes data. It's aren't data. They are table structure, schema, right? These are what you have, what you can query, you know, what tables you have, what columns you have in a particular table, if you know the ID. The way I got the idea was doing the star there. It has a lot of different information about this. You can query anything about any object. And what you're getting from there is information about the object, not information about the data that's in the object. Again, that can be really useful, especially if you're approaching a table from the command line. You don't need Object Explorer over here. It's useful to be able to figure out columns, what are the tables, what are the data types, you know. And there are literally hundreds of these sys queries. There's some other ways to do it too. I'm going to just do real quick, select star from sys database. And you can see in the intelligence, so I'm just database, and give me all the databases on this server. Okay, I'm in data, and I go to map to see all the databases. Just to show you, I'm not going to do a lot with these right now, but if you go into any database, so I'm going to close these, close tables. If you go to views and you do system views, you will see that these are all system views that give you metadata. The data. Now, a lot of times you might want to like interjoin things because you'll have a thing of just columns. You'll have a thing of just data types. I mean, literally, there's a table for everything, views for everything. One of the rules that the guy that invented relational databases had about relational databases is that all information had to be stored in tables, including data about data, metadata. So in the table, everything in a relational database is stored. Even you create a table, it creates the structure to another. Yeah, probably. Start.
All five of these are distinct.
Yeah. So I just wanted you to know you could query the structure of the tables and the structure of the. So if I do these, it says columns. So we have the column, we have the system type, user type. Now, so the system type, I would guess 56 is integer, but you could do there's a table of system types that would give you the names of the types and the number that corresponds with it, etc.
Data types.
Yeah, data types.
So what's user type?
You can create your own types. You have a user type ID, same as a system type. So we haven't got any of our own types. I don't actually, the only where we will create our own type is when we do the XML. We'll do an XML schema which will create a type, but it's like a class. It's more like a class than a type. But you can get your own data types. I've never figured out a data type. They have hundreds. A lot of times people will do something like you could, this used to be more common, it's not type like an address. So it'd be a composite type. And you can do some things like that, but I'm not sure the benefits of that exactly.
How does a composite type differ from just a table that has those same fields?
Yeah, I don't know. See, that's why I don't do them. If you did a composite, but you can't imagine what benefit you would get from something. You can't. I know you used to. It would enter that automatically spot the fields for you, basically. So it might speed up production, you know. But I'm not sure that it's that. As I said, I don't see that very much anymore. They used to be more. Probably like a type that you might to add that they only added recently. It's like latitude, longitude, geolocation. They did those. Sort of. Another thing they added, although we don't necessarily need to do that in hierarchical type, one of the problems with databases is there's no hierarchy. There's nothing superior to another. There's no, more general, less general. There's no inheritance patterns. Does that make sense? So some people, in order to get things to use hierarchical value, they actually created a field that will say, put this in a certain level of a hierarchy. So you can do a hierarchical structure to convert a relational structure to a hierarchical structure. Not something I've ever done. I've just read about it. That's fairly new, but I think that comes about a lot as one XML structure. It also probably helps it relate to when you're programming class structures and inheritance structures. One of the big complaints over time is that just do to object structures and they just don't come across very well. So the hierarchy might have to deal with that a little bit. I don't know if there's so many data types, but you can make your own. I guess that's you can define your own. Typically, when you define your own, though, it is some just variant of an existing type. But there is an ID for that. Maximum length, I assume that's in bytes. Precision, assume in digits. Considers data confirmation. I'm sure it's donation confirmation. Anyway, I just wanted to, that was the last part of the assignment, so I think I had to do a couple of those. I think I just had to do tables and databases. I will post this. Are there any questions more? Anything that you, if you're looking at the assignment that I left out? No. So you've got like a half hour, 15 minutes, yeah, half hour, 45 minutes. You can work now or hungry. Yeah.
Right, I didn't talk about this. I mean, other methods, probably where is this driver key?
Right. So I would do, all I was looking for was distinct. Yeah, so the thing about the distinct is it operates on the whole row. So if there's any variation in the row, it's not distinct. You can't apply it to just a column. It always applies to the whole row.
Yeah, I think so. So that's what I did. That's what I used. But I remember being in the same situation, but I was just like, this probably.
Yeah, that's the
Yeah. Oh, let's look right now.
Yeah, distinct is what I was looking for. Right. Yeah. The distinct sure said that, and there are times when we'll need to use distinct for other things. So yeah. Okay. The last problem is distinct. I forgot to mention that.
Oh, yes, yes.
That's the way I was
I just used bus key, I think.
Yeah, I meant bus key.
Yeah, that's what I
Okay.
did. Okay, that's right here.
That's the last one.
So for
There is bus route key.
So there is one if you go to
Bus driver shift key too.
if you go to the schedule assignment, so there's no bus driver key in there.
There's bus driver shift key.
I think that's probably what it was.
Okay, because that's what I was trying with.
There's no bus driver key.
No, no.
That's right. Sure, we'll use whatever we want.
Okay. Yeah.
Oh, I like
That's the last one I have.
Oh, yeah. First, let's consider,
Why does it that? Why did that?
You said, make sure there's just goes like, well, okay.
Today is 12. Yeah, it is, isn't it?
Let's all, let's seriously. Like,
We'll stick with,
So there is
Oh, that's it.
yeah, because I remember I was getting the result, like, I think it was looking at, but it has to be, the row is distinct. And that's the only I didn't get in there. Oh, no, yeah. I wanted, so I thought it meant that.
The parent is like, those two rows.
Yeah,
Okay.
so, because I thought like,
drill down to
distinct values, like, to show unique values for column one, or unique values for column two. But it wasn't getting that result.
Well, then you can use that.
Yeah, so I was getting this, and I was like, well, if this isn't distinct here, that's not what matters, it matters if the row is like distinct.
Gotcha. So,
So let me post this, and then I will.
that's all good.
I have one.
This YouTube, the record, today's recording. Or
Oh, yes, it is a YouTube, and I need to stop it.
Yeah.
It's not there yet, I guess would be the thing, because I haven't stopped it yet.
Pretty much seems to.